Good evening, everyone. We are live. Hi. I missed you all. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving Day. We are here to talk some Thrawn. We're here to have some laughs, talk about some Star Wars Raiders. Wes, punch it. Everyone into the Living Force podcast. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight is the full squad, both doctors. First, we have Dr. Corey Helton. Hello, sir.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Oh, giving great gift content as always. Love to see it. We also have Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on?
Glad to see you here after you spent 3 days crying over your beloved Heat's loss in the finals, but they did an admirable job.
Yeah. We should have picked up Thrawn before the trade deadline, so that's on us.
It absolutely is. But you know what else is on? Nope, not going there. Wes Jenkins is here. Hey, man.
Hey, it's me. I'm here. How's it going, everyone?
Oh, it's going great now that you're here, my friend. And also, everyone in the chat, hello. We got a nice full house tonight. We got Cheryl, we got Joxy, we got Meg, Spice Den, Amy. Hi, everyone. We're so glad you're here. You are found the Living Force podcast. If you're listening to us for the first time, hello, welcome. We are the official podcast of utini.com, your one-stop shop for all things Star Wars books. You want reviews? We got them. You want book guides? We got them. You want analysis? Yeah.
Do we have that?
Yeah, it's there.
I think it's there somewhere.
It's somewhere around there.
Maybe.
But we do this show every single week, Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, and we release the podcast to our patrons on Thursdays and our wider audience on all podcast platforms on Fridays.
Our wider audience? Is that what you just said?
Our wider audience, my friends. Wow. No, we are a wider host.
We can't talk about white people when we're all white guys, Eric.
That's all we are. But we are also, I don't know, luminous beings, something like that. Be sure to join our, this is great, y'all. This is great content. Be sure to join our thriving Discord community with a bunch of folks over at utini.com/Discord. And of course, we have a Patreon jam-packed with extra content at patreon.com/Utini. We'll talk about that a little later. Gentlemen, happy Monday. How are you doing? How are things?
Good. You know.
Good. You know, they're good.
Charles's life sucks, but other than that, you know. But
good.
The usual, I suppose.
Yeah, Charles, how was your day today? You had a little bit of an interesting day.
Yeah. 7 hours of standardized testing. It was great. You know, it was a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to 9 hours on Wednesday. 7 hours wasn't quite enough for me. You know, I was
you
really
missed it
itching
really
to stay
after
a little
7,
bit longer,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, just for the record, Charles, like 3 hours of that is more multiple choice questions, just in case you weren't ready for that. Because I wasn't ready for that. I sat down for that, and I was like, there's a lot more multiple choice questions here than I was warned about.
You were like slapping yourself in the face trying to wake up from your nightmare.
Exactly. I was like, oh God, I probably shouldn't got hammered last night. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Well, I got to ask you guys, because we have so much extra time on a part 2 of a Roundtable episode, are you guys more fans of multiple choice questions or essays as far as life goes?
Essays, because I can tell you I'm right instead of you just being like wrong.
That's right. Next.
Exactly. That's why I love English more than math. Yes. I can write my way into a right answer by page 3.
I hate essays though. I hate them so much. Like I'm the kind of person that just blanks when they see like an essay question. It's like I got nothing. I can't even fake this.
How are you here?
I don't. It's terrible. I don't know.
I'll write the same thing, the same sentence 4 different times in just 4 different jumbled up words, and be like, "Yeah, this is exactly what this is about." It's like you said the same thing 4 different times, just in 3 different sentences.
But you said in conclusion before the last time.
See, I have not been the same since I was doing a one of those big standardized tests for college scholarships back in the day. That was like, it's so hard that like the top 1% gets a full ride. So by halfway through, I knew I wasn't going to get it. So the last essay question was like, write an essay about a book that you think has revolutionized fiction in the last 10 years. And I wrote about how the Twilight Saga got teens into reading. I did not get a scholarship.
Oh my God.
Anyway, a couple things before we get into Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising, which I swear has revolutionized reading this past year. A few things we want to get to. Quick shout out. Happy anniversary tonight to a couple Star Wars folks. Alex and Molly Damon, you guys may know them from Star Wars Explained. It's your wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. We're so glad you guys are happy and in this community. So, yay, there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. Additionally, we had some really cool book news, y'all. We're going to try to get through this quickly, but I may not be able to because last week we found out which 40 characters we were going to get stories about, and from a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back. Del Rey put out a tweet every 5 minutes doing a reveal of a story with a little synopsis and an author, and y'all, every tweet went out on time. I was amazed. Like, it worked perfectly, and our very own Heather Goldman woke up super early and did a quote tweet for every single story. So, like, Heather, yo, that was incredible.
It's a lot of work.
Awesome.
Yes. Very, very stoked you did that. But I wanted to kind of go around a little bit. We put up an article that our very own awesome and talented Meg Dowell wrote, going through all 40 stories. Be sure to head over to utini.com to check that out if you want a one-stop shop to see what's in every story, which characters are being talked about, which authors are writing. But I wanted to kind of get a vibe from you guys. Are there any stories jumping out at you? I wanted to ask, do you have a top 3? That was the homework assignment.
Yeah,
you did not do the homework assignment.
We were talking about those homework assignments earlier. There were no essays involved.
Don't change
so
the assignment now.
Here, let's go to this. Charles, I want to go to you first. If you looked at the list on Utini, Spice Den, also who's in the chat right now, put up a really helpful image in the Utini Discord.
Yes,
that put up a nice little listing.
Actively looking
shout
at
out
it
to that
as we speak.
Charles, what 3 stories are you looking forward to the most in Empire Strikes Back, which is coming out, y'all, next month?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm looking forward to all 40 of them, but a couple ones that I picked out. Number 1, the Dragon Snake saves R2-D2, because who doesn't need a little more Dragon Snake? You know what I'm saying?
What, that's like also like a comic.
What is that
as well?
What's the Dragon Snake?
Is it a comic as well?
On Dagobah, the thing that spits out R2 and he goes,
oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
It's that moment.
I'm stoked for this. Really, mostly this one for the title. Amara Kell's rules for TIE pilot survival, in parentheses, probably, because it sounds like Ned's Declassified's cool survival guide, but for Star Wars.
Excellent.
And so I'm here for it.
Oh my God, I need Ned Bigby in that all the time now.
I mean, he could be the
Star
new
Wars.
Biggs.
That was a great show, man.
That was a great show. I love that show. Mose and Cookie, come on.
Yes. And then, of course, I'm sure someone was going to bring this up besides me, but the 40th story, the Wills Strike Back. We're getting some more Guardians of the Wills. I mean, what more could you want?
Yeah, and that's Tom Engelberger who wrote the Wills story in the first, from a certain point of view. So he's kind of continuing his series, if you will. Wes, how about you? What 3 you got?
All right. I'll leave the best for last. So the first one I'm kind of looking forward to is called But What Does He Eat? And it is a story of a chef who makes the food for Darth Vader. And
we had this question on this show.
We did
a handful of episodes ago.
What do you cook for him? And do you know that he's gonna shovel it through his?
How does he eat? By the way, is that been addressed?
Or does he pop off his helmet?
Spaghetti
will be now.
That's it.
All right, love that.
The next one is A Good Kiss, which is the dude that just walks between Han and Leia whenever they're arguing on Hoth.
I love that he gets the story.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It was like the creep guy who goes back and tells his friends, like, "Hey, Jeff, guess what I saw those two doing? Yeah, they finally almost did it.
But I messed it up. Nice, dude. Nice.
And then probably everybody's pick is Do on Batu, which is the story that we're all looking for from Wilro Hood himself.
I love
Someone
it.
finally wrote about Wilro Hood, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, and also, I love that Batu is in the title because they're like, hey, if we can shamelessly get Galaxy's Edge into one of these, let's put it in the Wilbur Hood one because everyone is going to love it no matter what.
Yes.
So,
because they know they're going to read that story out of that entire book. They'll read the Wilbur Hood story.
That's right.
I
think we have to be excited for the Wilbur Hood because, like, I didn't even find out really about who Wilbur Hood was until Celebration when they had all those guys running through, and I was like,
the running of the Wilbur Hoods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I had known about that ahead of time, but like somebody told me ahead of time, like, hey, you got to watch out for the running of the Wilbur Hoods, and I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, that guy! I didn't know that was a thing. So that was a pretty cool thing. So it'll be exciting for the greater public to understand who that is. I think it'll be neat.
Yeah, for sure. But I'll throw a couple out as well. First of all, I want to shout out, there's a story by Tracy Dion, who is becoming one of my recent, I don't know, favorite authors and stuff, because I'm only in the middle of her first book, but it's really freaking good, called Legendborn, if you need some non-Star Wars stuff to read. But she is writing a story called Vengeance, which is the Dagobah Cave. So it's all the kind of mystical stuff in there. That sounds cool. We then have Delilah Dawson writing She Will Keep Them Warm about Murra the Tauntaun that dies. That'll be really good.
Name before now?
I don't think so. I didn't.
Did you?
That makes it a lot sadder. I don't think I wanted to know its name.
Yeah, it'd be from her point of view too. From her certain point of view, if you will. Very excited about that.
Are they going to make the sound in the story like the "Oh, you got me in the gut"?
Well, they might. And then she's like, "And as the saber rippled through my flesh and my guts poured out." Anyway, that'll be really sad. And then The Man Who Built Cloud City, which is Alexander Freed's story he's doing. It's apparently pitched as like a fairy tale-esque storytelling of the guy who built Cloud City that named himself the King of Cloud City.
It's probably just going to be like. Dope. It's probably just going to be like Freed is such a technical dude. It's just going to be like one guy just like reading over his blueprints. Yes, and the main like center will be approximately 476 square feet, and the ceiling will be 18 feet high and white. Everything will be
that's
white.
That's a fairy tale. So definitely look forward to those. Let us know which ones you're looking forward to the most. And remember, pre-order link is up on our new releases page at utini.com right now.
I didn't get to go. What about me? You didn't ask me any questions.
I thought I was giving you the out. All right, go.
Come on. I have opinions. I have opinions. God,
all right, Corey, what three
throw me under the bus. I said I was looking at it.
What three do you want?
And moving on.
All right.
Everyone shut up. Listen to Corey. Shut up. Corey.
Now I don't want to go. All right.
This is part 2 of a Roundtable. We got time.
Yes. Okay. All right. Quickly. All right. I am excited for a couple of these that really jump out. First one is Against All Odds. It's about Dak Ralter. I guess it's Ralter.
Yes.
I find myself watching Empire, I think, more than any other movie. Like, you guys heard me talk about having insomnia, and I'll throw on Empire, and it helps me go to sleep. It's fantastic. But I frequently there are things that I think about every single time I watch the film that I've never really looked that much deeper into. And one of the characters that I find really interesting is Dak I always want to say Rendar. That's not
quite.
not Dash Rendar. Dak Ralter. Yes, I just find him to be an interesting character because he just gets totally thrown under the bus. He dies so quickly. We don't know anything about him. He's
so optimistic.
Yes, he's like, right now I feel like I can take the whole empire myself or something, right? And
then boom.
Yep. So he gets he gets blasted, and then he gets crushed to death. Like Luke was gonna get his body out, but nope, he's goo now. So there's that.
I hope the story goes all the way through the goo.
Yes.
I want to don't just stop when he dies. Keep going.
That's right. Another character I find very interesting is Admiral Piet, because we slowly, rather quickly, see him rise through the Imperial ranks because Vader keeps killing his superiors. And I love the "Don't fail me again, Admiral Piet," and that's when he's promoted to Admiral, and he's like,
no.
What had to be going through his head? Like, I think we're going to find out. It's like, great, I'm an admiral. Finally, I've made it. But holy crap, I'm absolutely screwed. So
what am I going to do with all this money?
Yeah, just goes, I'm an admiral. Whee!
That's right.
For my Hamill fans.
And then lastly, we have there's a new Boba Fett story, which I'm always excited to see. We have a lot of... Boba Fett is a character who a lot of different people have written about. Like to the point that it's almost kind of overdone because and there's not a lot of consistency. Like, We have child Boba Fett. So you just kind of have to write it off as like there's going to be a lot of different versions of this character. And what is?
But you can't write Empire and not write Boba.
That's right.
Fett.
And Zoraida Cordova is doing that one too, which is a great choice. So
love getting her back. She also wrote Young Boba in the Clone Wars Light and Dark anthology, so she gets to write a couple of Bobas, which will be cool. Jared, I know, mentioned I don't know where it was in Slack, it was in Legends Look Back, it was in something. There's a new Wedge story, so we get Rogue Squadron, which will be awesome. Charles, do you want to correct one of your choices?
Well, I'm pretty upset. I did not choose the Obi-Wan story. And I think Spice Den, is that who called it out in the Twitch chat? So thank you, Spice Den, because that's got to be in my top 3. So I guess I'll take out Dragon Snake because, let's be honest, I'm not the world's biggest Dragon Snake fan. I'm the world's biggest Obi-Wan fan.
I really like their 3rd album, but by the 4th album, they just started selling out.
They really rocked in the 80s, but
This is my Dragon Force and White Snake cover band, Dragon Snake. We'll keep an eye out for all these stories and more. We'll be talking about that book. Maybe not in traditional roundtable style, but we'll at least have an episode that focuses on some of our favorites later in the year.
Listen, there's a fruit fly flying all around my room right now. It's really freaking me out. I can't get it out of here.
Well, that's going to be a gift.
Well, while Corey tries to save himself from a harmless little fly, I'm going to tell you all about
his audio.
He did. Sorry. The fly did.
Sorry. Is it still working?
Guys, I was like, hey, we don't have a patron of the week this week. We're going to fly through this. We're going to get to Thrawn quickly. We're 17
patron of the
minutes
week
in.
is this fruit fly.
All right, y'all. A little more news we got this week. The High Republic panel happened at the New York Comic-Con virtual metaverse, and we got some awesome news. We are not only getting the High Republic stories we already knew about coming in January, we are getting 3 other books next summer. That's right. We heard about the second wave of the High Republic, which will include an adult novel by Kevin Scott, a YA novel by Justina Ireland, a middle grade novel by Daniel Jose Older, and this December, Star Wars Insider is bringing back its original fiction. They used to do a lot of short stories, with Charles Soule doing an original short story about the High Republic. So, what all did you guys think about us finding out before a single High Republic title drops that we're actually doubling the amount of books that we're getting next year already?
Oh man, I think it just speaks towards their confidence, like in this era and in this project overall, right? Like there's no testing ground, and they're going to see how people adapt to it and what people think about it. They're just like going all in. And this, is one of the projects that we've seen. It seems like they planned like step by step very far in advance. And so I think that we're going to get a big payoff from that down the road. And so I'm excited. I mean, I'm ready for them to announce wave 3. I know that we're going to all read these books. We're going to be talking about them here on the show. And I just can't wait to dive into like a whole new era of Star Wars.
Dude, no question. And again, the fact that they are so confident releasing in summer makes sense, especially when we think that before a lot of the COVID publishing delays, the first book was supposed to be out in September. We should have already read Light of the Jedi at this point. So I'm assuming they were already writing.
That's
like,
true.
I mean, Kevin was working on that adult novel probably when they announced the whole initiative. So
yeah,
very excited to see who's going on. And I like the fact that the same authors are sticking around for 2 waves, which is super fun because then they get to really kind of create the whole storyline. It reminds me of some of the old Legend stuff, honestly, like New Jedi Order, Fate of the Jedi, Legacy. Like a lot of those had the same authors writing multiple entries. So what a cool kind of, not even an homage to Legends, but just a great idea taken from it to be like, hey, all these authors write multiple entries. So very stoked about that. Cannot wait. Again, all pre-order links, they're going to be on Utini. We're going to be talking about them. And as soon as we get titles, you'll get titles, everybody. All right, last little bit of news I want to talk about before we get back into Thrawn Ascendancy. Our YouTube channel hit a nice little milestone this week. We are at 400 subscribers.
Hey.
So, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you all for subscribing. Like that's super cool.
If only we had an editor who could put in amazing sound effects.
Here. Hey, Matt, right here, buddy.
I want to record myself just doing the sound effects, and then he could insert those.
Just a Corey soundboard would be fantastic.
Right. Oh my God. Well, in absence of the soundboard, we do have a lot of thanks. But seriously, to our video team who has been cranking out these videos. Jake, Emma, Nathan, Andrew, George when he was still with us, Joxy's doing a lot of work behind the scenes, Nathan, like everyone working on those videos. The output has been so good. There's a reason why the numbers shot through the roof this last month. I did my first video last week, which was very fun, and saw even just how hard it is to make a single piece of content over there. So awesome. Thank you to all of you that have been watching and subscribing to those. If you're listening and you're not subscribed, head on over there, hit subscribe, ding the bell. We got new content coming out there all the time. And a special shout out to one of our viewers on YouTube, Stephanie Mack, has left a couple really long, really cool analytical comments on a couple of the videos, including our first roundtable about Thrawn, including some Legends Look Back videos, talking about outbound flight connections in Thrawn, and a lot of stuff on their Heir to the Empire episode. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for your input. And to everyone, keep those comments going on YouTube as well as in Discord. The conversation is one of the things we love the most about doing this, because we can talk all the time. We listen to ourselves talk, and it's fine. It's whatever, you know. But we want to hear what you think about all this Star Wars goings on. All right. That's 3 times as much news as I thought we were going to have. Let us take a quick break. We're going to show you a lovely ad for Utini Game Night, and we'll be back with part 2 of our roundtable on Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising. See you in a sec.
Doing them drugs, them adrenal drugs. Oh.
All right. Fantastic. I love that ad. Stick around to the end of the show. After our roundtable is done, we will tell you more about what's coming up next on Utini Game Night. But you got to stick around. So for now, Charles, let's finish this out. What do you got?
All right. So we left off in our character exploration, and we had just finished up talking about Thalius. And so we are going to talk about the new Skywalker on the block, Cherry, first. So,
another great band.
Right? So I might probably be like asserting some of my own thoughts here with this question, but the first thing I want to know is, why do y'all think that Skywalkers are so relatable for the audience? What is it about them and about their journey that makes you just feel a connection to them?
I think the choice to make them so young and kind of relatively innocent helps a lot with that. I mean, I think there's a nature when a character is introduced in a book and they're like less than 14, or like they're still technically more of a child, that makes the audience be like, okay, I want to protect this person. I want to make sure they're okay. And also Zahn's choice to do that, but also make them super powerful. Like, they're necessary for the whole ascendancy to exist. I thought was really smart, because the stakes are very high. 1, we want this younger person to be safe. We want them to be okay. But 2, we know that if this younger person doesn't do their job, then the ships don't have their bearings. They can't jump the way they need to. So the fleet obviously has to regard them with a certain amount of respect. And I also think it gives the other characters around them a lot of opportunities to respect them as coworkers, but also respect them as children. And it just opens up the story so much to put all those factors in one spot. I really liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that we didn't get like Zahn didn't choose to create these characters as kind of like I don't know, military based kids, kind of like Ender's Game or something like that, maybe. Like I don't know. I found myself thinking about that question a lot throughout my listening of the audiobook. Is like, why are these civilians, like, and why has the Ascendancy like designed them in the way they have? Because they do their job as kids, and then they just kind of phase out and do whatever. And it's basically like let's steal you from your home, force you to do this job, and then like we just let you go afterwards, and you can do whatever you want. So I find the nature of the characters to be very interesting, and I'm wondering, I would love to ask Timothy Zahn what motivated him to do it, to create these characters like that. Like, why did he create the Skywalkers exactly in that way? But to answer your question, why are they so related? Well, I think a lot of us can relate to like the way that Shiri is portrayed of like that sort of childlike wonder kind of about everything. Like she is inquisitive, but also feels like she doesn't really know her place. And I don't know. I think that nature is just very relatable in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like I was almost reading like a YA book whenever I was reading the chapters that were kind of from with more cherry in them. I think they kind of read that way, and I could see that. I would read a YA book about Skywalkers. Why not?
Absolutely. After the High Republic, let's just have it be an entire Chiss line. I'm going to Chiss YA. I'm going to Chiss middle grade. All happening in the chaos. Let's go.
Well, all of that kind of leads me into the next question, which actually comes from Cheryl Bell, who we all know very well, one of our most active patrons. But she kind of submitted this question over to us on Discord. So, what are your thoughts on all Skywalkers essentially being prepubescent females, and why do you think they lose their powers at such a young age, whether that's biologically, philosophically, etc.? But is there like a message there that Zahn is sending by making those choices, or is this all just purely story driven?
Oof, that is a heavy question.
I hadn't thought of it till this point, but I wonder if it's kind of an homage to Padme in a way, because Padme rules the planet of Naboo at a similar age, right? Like 14. So I think Star Wars in that way, at least in the last few films cycles and book cycles, has a lot of respect for the power that young women have. And I think the fact that the Chiss biologically are reliant on young women, I think is a really strong kind of stance to take. Now, having them phase out and then look for direction, I think is a very interesting thing to do. And I think it is very purposeful. I think it is meant to kind of say, hey, is that how we look at the military in our own world? Like, once they've served their purpose, all right, you're done. We don't need you anymore. I mean, it to a lesser extent, it's how we look at athletes. All right, you're older, you can't run as fast, you don't have the power, out you go. We don't really care. So there's a little bit of callousness to it, and I think that is ultimately made that way to for characters like Thalius and Thrawn and Aralani to show how they're different, to show how they care for people beyond their quote-unquote expiration date or whatever it may be. Like, Thalius gives us a look into that woman who has grown out of that role and showing how there can still be strength, and showing how even if you think your purpose is gone, you can still find brand new meaning. And Thrawn respects Thalius just as much as he respects Sherry. It's not a question. So I think it shows that kind of evolution as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even really have a lot to add to that. I mean, I think to answer the specifics of the question, like, is there a message that Zahn is sending? Like, I mean, I feel like a young female sort of have a sort of nature about them that suits this role in the way it was depicted well, in that, like, there's similar themes of like innocence and naivety. What's the word? How do you pronounce it?
Naivety?
Yes, I've never been able to pronounce that
There's
correctly.
an E and an A in there somewhere. Exactly.
Yes, like the principle of being naive. And I feel like maybe that goes along a little bit with the ginger role that's depicted. Like, but I don't know. We would have to ask, I think, to really see what Zahn's motive for doing that was. Like,
yeah,
and specifically. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, Cheryl's actually in the chat right now, and she just posted a follow-up saying she thought it was weird that it was tied into puberty, perhaps. Like, that's the typical age, like, that we see here. Also, like, in X-Men, right? Like, that's the age the X-Men get their powers. Like,
yeah, right.
There's something very specific about that age in a lot of popular sci-fi and fantasy fiction.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's just sort of a theme of, coming of age when you think of puberty. Mm-hmm. Like, and like, we use that as the generic time clock, like, for these types of things in a lot of stories, because, that's an age-related time that everybody's familiar with. It just makes sense to kind of place things at that in that particular fashion. I do think it's very, very interesting and a fantastic story choice to make all the Force users female. Now, like,
yeah.
like take away the pre-puberty age thing, like the fact that they're all female in the Chiss is super interesting, and I would love to see that idea expanded upon. Like maybe we see, the 1 in a million, the 1 in a million female that is like doesn't lose her force powers at puberty, and maybe she becomes a Jedi or something crazy like that. That would be fantastic. I would love to see something like
High Republic, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think that is interesting to have that idea of, they are the most in tune with the universe of anyone else in the whole race, right?
Right.
And Cheryl, again, putting like, usually at a coming of age story, you gain power at that age. And in this particular universe, that's when they lose it. So it's like, is it the loss of innocence? Is it the loss of wonder? Like when you become a teenager, we start to think like, oh, things aren't as cool. And you kind of put these walls up. And in this case, it's kind of literal. So yeah, really good question, Cheryl. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it's just, it's a time of change, right? It's a time where you are already having to find kind of yourself and your role out in the world. And if they continue to have their powers and they continue to have these abilities, then they would just continue on in the life that they've always known. So I think it actually is a pretty cool idea that they lose something that's so core, to the character and so essential to who they are and the life that they know, and that they kind of cross that threshold and now they have to fend for themselves literally amidst the chaos. So yeah, it's a great question. I'm glad that we were able to work it in here. And Eric, you brought something up, that it kind of singled out Thrawn and Thalius, that they were so loving and encouraging, towards the Skywalkers. And there was one moment in particular that really jumped out to me. It was on page 289, and it was when Thrawn teaches Cherie how to fly a ship. And their relationship there was very interesting. I'm wondering, how do you all view specifically the relationship between Thrawn and Cherie? Because I'm almost wondering if he views her as a sister figure, if he feels like he's kind of retrospectively, being a mentor towards a young, new Skywalker, the way that his sister was taken away from his family.
I love that, and I think that's totally it. Now, once we find out about Thrawn's backstory, I don't see how I can't read that into it. He's teaching her to fly a ship because he never got to teach his sister. I think that there's something really beautiful about him being like, I couldn't have these memories with her. I couldn't learn from her, and I couldn't teach her. So now I'm, in a way, getting to do that again. And that's kind of a beautiful second chance that I would assume everyone, needs, that everyone who has lost someone close, whether it be a sibling or a parent, like, to be able to have that second chance with a mentor or mentee is really beautiful. And I think that scene especially was so well written in that way, because you could feel what that meant to Thrawn to be able to do that, to be able to teach her, and how valued she felt in a way that she'd only been valued for her second sight. And now it's like, no, you can also do other things. And I thought that was beautiful in both ways.
Yeah, totally. I'll kind of back that up as well. And like I said this a lot in the last episode, that like we're learning a lot about like Thrawn's fundamental character traits here. And I think that we have to ask the bigger question, which we asked last time, is Thrawn a villain actually, right? And it's scenes like this that really make you question if Thrawn is actually a villain, because like he has an enormous amount of compassion for people, like everybody, particularly children. So is it because it's his, like, he had this story of like his sister being taken away and being a Skywalker? Perhaps so. Or maybe it's just a fundamental nature. Maybe Thrawn is actually good just at heart. Like he has empathy and compassion. So I don't know. I'm totally with you, Charles. I absolutely loved this scene. And like, I thought it was one of the most character developing scenes in the whole book, both for Thrawn and Cherie.
Yeah, agreed. So as we kind of come to a close on talking about Cherie, the young female character, we are going to transition to a similar character in Bakif, the old grizzled man.
Virtually identical. Basically the same character.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same character.
Same voice actor.
I had to give a shout out to Bekeef, who really actually there is a similarity here. I kind of see him as serving as a father figure to Thrawn, because he's both constantly like encouraging and correcting Thrawn. Like he's on his side, but he also calls him out, and he's not afraid to do that. But why do y'all view Bekeef as so important to the story of Thrawn in this book in particular, and just in Thrawn's progression through the military that we see in other books as well?
Well, like last week when I was talking about like giving the book a perfect score, like it's because of characters like Shiri and Bekeef and Thalius that like I think that it would be very challenging for me to not give a perfect 10 out of 10, at least for characters, particularly with Zahn's. Almost did it again. Almost said Thrawn. With Zahn's writing.
In my review, it got a 10 for sure.
Yes, because the characters, all of the characters that he created in this book are absolutely fantastic. And Bekeef, like they just all like I'm not well versed enough in literature and in English writing to like. To give you like the fundamentals of what this actually is, but all of Zahn's characters, Jesus, I always do that. All of Zahn's characters, they serve a purpose, and they have a very niche role that they serve, and Bekeef like fits that role perfectly. He's like he has power, he helped put Thrawn like where he is. And he's always sort of rooting for him, even though everybody else is sort of up against him. Like you create a really cool political dynamic, I feel like, in the book that like yes, Thrawn sucks at politics, but he has Bekeef kind of in his corner, and I think it makes a huge difference both for his career and from a story perspective. So I love the character. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, all I have to add to that is that I'm looking through my notes of when I was reviewing it, and in chapter 16, I just wrote Bekeef is an OG.
Yes, he really is.
That's just
an original general.
Yes, it's exactly it. But I'm like, he's a real one, you know. Bekeef is just that's it. He's an OG.
He was a great character. I loved him. I loved him. Every single scene that he was in, I absolutely loved it. If it started off a scene, because Zahn does that a lot, he starts off a scene like in somebody's head. And if the chapter started off in Bekeef's head, I was like, I knew I would love the chapter.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, one more question for Bekeef. On page 171, we get him talking to Thrawn, and he's being quite stern with him. And he says, "Understand this, Commander, and understand it clearly. The Ascendancy does not attack other systems unless we have clear evidence that they attacked us first. We don't attack militarily, diplomatically, subversively, clandestinely, or psychologically. Those who do not attack us will not be attacked by us. Is that clear?" And now we're going to get around to discussing specifically the Ascendancy's view on interactions with other aliens in the chaos. But for now, what I want to know is, when placed at odds with each other, do you think Bekeef will align with the Ascendancy and its values, or with Thrawn?
That's a good question.
Ooh.
I think that Bekeef feels the way that Thrawn feels, which is that the Ascendancy's choices and Thrawn's choices don't have to be necessarily the difference, and like it seems like that's the battle that he's constantly trying to win for Thrawn, is that like, listen, we're all on the same side here, but there's different ways of doing things.
Yeah, I think the only time Bekeef could actually go against the Ascendancy is if they were like, all right, fire on that ship and like kill Thrawn for something. Like if they had gone that far, then he'd be like, nope, all right, I'm taking place. But again, if the Ascendancy didn't attack Thrawn physically first, then I don't think Bekeef is standing in the middle of them. But I do like that idea of that scene happening somewhere in this trilogy. That's for sure. Also, a quick shout out, Spice Dan again in the chat made a really great point. Bekeef is kind of like Yularen in his relationship to Thrawn, and I like that comparison quite a bit. But yeah, I think if we're looking at, Charles, to your point, if we're looking at characters that may become part of like the Thrawn squad in later on in this trilogy against the Ascendancy, Bekeef is definitely going to be in there.
Yeah.
He's like that. It's in Rebels. He's one of the Lothal guys, one of the head dudes that like knew Ezra's parents. That's kind of how I can see.
Oh yeah. That captain guy that they rescued with the big hat.
Yeah, so I can see him being flipped in that way if he's attacked by the Ascendancy.
Guy with the hat.
The guy with the
guy with the hat. Yes, guy with hat.
You know what I'm talking about? He's got a hat.
Yeah.
Listen to the Ghost Crew Patreon show for more of this thrilling analysis of Rebels.
So going back to Bekeef, it sounds like he wants to keep the ideals of the Ascendancy, while in it, like deep down, he's like, man, I wish somebody would really just lay it to those other people, and he has Thrawn to do that for him.
Yeah.
So he kind of lives a little vicariously through Thrawn, but also sits back and does what he's told.
He definitely seems like the kind of military guy you see a lot in a lot of stories that kind of like resents his desk job. Like he wishes he was doing the action.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He's like Captain Anderson in Mass Effect.
I've not played the Mass Effect games.
If anyone played the Mass Effect games.
What?
Nope.
All right. Hopefully someone got that out of our average weekly listeners. Someone's played Mass Effect.
All right. Well, someone who was not in Mass Effect is this next character that we're going to talk about with the greatest and most difficult name in this entire book, Kilori of Uandalan.
Yes.
One more time.
Kilori of Uandalan.
All right.
Yes. Yes, that's how I choose to say it. I love this guy, and I don't know why I found him so cool. I think partly because of his job, like as a navigator. I thought all the navigator stuff was cool, but also because he was kind of walking the line between the good guys and the bad guys, playing both sides.
He's kind of a bastard.
Yeah, he totally is.
Yeah.
But you know I love bastards, or else I wouldn't be here with you.
There it is.
Oh my God.
You're not wrong.
So what are y'all's overall thoughts on Kilori of Uandalan?
Listen, Mark Thompson's portrayal of Kilori in the audiobook is bar none Oscar worthy. Like, it was fantastic. Like, he does this like really guttural, throaty alien. Like, he kind of sounds like that blue guy in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
Mithril.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you all that. Is he the
Mithril.
same species?
I don't know.
Is he the same species?
No,
they
no.
talk.
I think he's a new species.
He talks about like his fish face flap things.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he
like,
totally does.
Like
Is
a
it?
lot.
Let's
What
see
if
he
it is
is.
I don't know if it's the same species or not.
Okay,
Wow.
I just typed in Kilori of Uandalan, and literally the top hit is from a Twitter account that says Kilori of Uandalan Nation Rise.
Let's join it.
Some fans out there.
Join it.
Wow. Well, I gotta say,
You've never heard of
I'll jump
Mithril
in.
empty his thorax.
Yeah. God, Mandalorian season 2. I am very much
You're a
looking
lucky
forward
guy.
to more Kilori of Wandalan. I really liked his kind of view as being on the outside, looking at the outsiders. You know, because Thrawn is an outsider, but he's even more so. So looking
to all the
objectively
parties, like both to the
and
Chiss, like to the
Cardoon,
like, even to
all
like the
these different
Navigators Guild. Like he's
Yeah.
like, this is my job and my people and stuff, but like also like I feel like a corporate employee. Like he talked about that a lot. That was fantastic. He's sort of such a neutral party.
I really like him because he definitely felt like the kind of guy you meet on like a D&D campaign or something. That's like, oh, hey, you need to go somewhere? And he has like a weird little backstory. And I love the fact that Thrawn like remembered him and he was the one that he knew from way back when. And it's like, dude, don't piss off Thrawn because in 30 years he will find you.
That's right.
But no, I really dug him, and I liked his kind of, again, morally questionable shifting characters are my bread and butter. Can't get enough of them. So I also can't blame the guy for being like, all right, you're conquering the universe? Great. Let's hang. Ooh, wait, no, you're conquering the universe? No, we're cool. We're cool.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. What did y'all think about like this new Navigators Guild and the various groups that were within that? Because we got like the Void Guides, the Pathfinders. There were different groups even within that guild, but this is a whole job that I think we didn't even know about necessarily before. I mean, we knew that the Skywalkers performed this job for the Chiss, but not for, you know, the rest of the chaos.
Yeah.
Was there a defined difference in between the Void Guides and the Pathfinders?
I think they were kind of just different sects from like within the Navigators Guild. It seemed like they had a slightly different view on like how they performed their duties. Like, I don't know. They had different terminology, if I remember correctly, for like the the ability that they had and like how they viewed it as interacting with some greater thing. But ultimately they serve the same purpose.
Are they all the same species and everything? Like Void Guides and Pathfinders, were they all? I don't remember. Was that all in this book? I don't remember all this.
Yes.
Yeah, this is all just from this book. It's brand new.
Pathfinders.
But I love the guild as a whole. Like just as an idea. Again, this is a brand new space. They don't have like hyperspace lanes and all that crap. So
totally.
like, I love the organic feel of it. I love that you need a Skywalker, or you need a navigator, you need someone, and the way that Zahn described him like tapping into the chaos to like see it and listen and like do all that stuff is kind of like the stuff that we didn't love in Thrawn Alliances, where he described how Vader and Anakin see the Force.
Yes.
I think this was the better evolution of that writing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think I made this point last time. I actually don't remember if I made this point or not, that like the concept in general of the chaos is maybe the most genius idea that any writer in Star Wars has ever had, because like what a sandbox it gave Timothy Zahn to write in. Like he can do whatever he wants out there, man. Like, because like everybody, there's like everything is surrounded by black holes and maws, and like you have to have like special alien species that can use the Force and navigate the hyperspace. Like, it's freaking genius, and
it's
like
so rad.
It makes it seem very mysterious, and like the threat is very real, and I think it's all going to tie into the big story very, very nicely. I love the idea of the Navigators Guild, and I love the fact that the Chiss have their own version of it in the Skywalkers, and that it's secret, and like it doesn't seem like anybody else really has that sort of ability in the chaos, at least what we've hinted at so far. So it definitely kind of helps paint that picture that the Chiss are sort of the ruling class, most powerful group in the chaos, if that hasn't already been clearly established.
Yeah.
So you guys know I like to ask these questions, even though you normally shut me down. But what is it about these navigators in particular that gives them their abilities? And might that thing be the Force? We heard it referred to as, quote, the greater presence. I think that was from Kilori, if I'm not mistaken. But they basically put on sensory deprivation helmets, right? Like similar to how Luke puts on the blast shield helmet, so he can't use his sight. And they navigate these things, these gigantic ships, incredibly well through the chaos. So like you're saying, Corey, all these black holes and different crazy traps that they could fall into. So what is it? And might it actually be the Force?
I think the Force. I think it's sort of implied that it's the Force. Like,
yeah.
And maybe
different name for it, which I think is also cool, because like, of course, different sectors of the universe will have different names for the same thing. Like, you know, if we went on another planet and found a race of aliens that had a similar gravity, like they wouldn't call it gravity, even though it's doing the same thing.
Right.
So I love the description of the Force from someone who doesn't call it that, because it's kind of like a brand new way of seeing light for the first time.
Totally.
I really dug it.
Yeah.
Cool. God, this book is really freaking good.
It is. I'm telling you, it's so good.
Damn.
Like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm just like
good.
Convinced that
there's a lot to unpack.
It is. Like, all the characters are fantastic. The story is fantastic. The plot moves. Like, I love it.
So you have your navigators just stuck on this one lane of being for these hyperspace lanes, if you will, and you wouldn't use them. They wouldn't think about using their greater presence for something else. They wouldn't like get together and be like, you know, I made a knife move across the table towards our supervisor the other day, and I really thought about shoving that thing into his chest, but I decided not to. But I knew that I can do it.
Right.
We don't actually have to use it just for this.
And maybe they only think it's navigation. Maybe that's the thing. Like,
maybe that's the thing.
If Kilori tries it, maybe later on, because if you're told it can only be used for navigation, maybe that's all you'll use it for.
Right.
You know.
Also, like, Kilori totally thinks, at least that it seems like the navigator's perception is that it's like almost like a portal between like life and the afterlife in a weird way. Like, did you kind of get that vibe? Like, there was
I did.
Zone.
Yeah, there was a god-like discussion, I think, in there somewhere, and like it seems like it's the way that they view
and
it.
All of their minds are connected, right? All the navigators,
they can sense each other on ships and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what made me think it was the Force. Like right when I read that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but stay in your lane, bro. Stay in your hyper lane.
Exactly, right?
Hyperspace lane. Don't give any of them a lightsaber. We might have problems. All right, but let's talk about the biggest problem in this book, and that is Yiv the Benevolent. So even though Yiv was ultimately just a pawn in the greater story, we have got to give him his due here. On page 206, Thrawn and Yiv first meet, and they have a conversation that was actually mostly about like a tapestry that was up on the wall. But afterwards, Thrawn says, and I quote, "You think just because there were no loud words or discharged weapons that we did not engage in combat?"
Great quote. Great quote. Loved it.
So nice. But how did Yiv, like as an antagonist, complement the character of Thrawn? Like, did you appreciate that there was a villain who at least attempted to be as cerebral as Thrawn instead of just physically overpowering?
I mean, Thrawn.
Yes. Like, this was great.
Thrawn himself.
This was freaking.
Put him on his level. It was fantastic.
Yeah, this is freaking Moriarty. Like, this is what you need for Sherlock Holmes. Like, yes, correct. It was great. I liked Yiv a lot. I think that Yiv was kind of terrifying in that way. Again, to have like a person that says, "I'm so benevolent, I'm such a good ruler, just like follow me and we'll be cool," is the scariest kind of person. And that scene with him and Thrawn taking each other down with pleasantries was electrifying as any space battle.
Right, and it even felt like we walked away from that conversation like I didn't even see it really. Like, clearly Thrawn, like the way that Zahn depicted it, of like Thrawn clearly saw how tactical and talented and genius Yiv was, but nobody else, including the reader, really does. Like, I think that's what's so mysterious and awesome about his character. And what a name, by the way, Yiv the Benevolent. Have you ever heard of a more gangster-sounding name? It's like Jabba the Hutt. Like, it's fantastic. Yeah, loved it.
And I also, I gotta say, I didn't mind the reveal at the end of him being part of another. Like, that didn't feel like it cheapened him as a character, which I thought. Yeah. I think that's hard to do, so that was pretty cool.
I mean, that's like original trilogy, right? I mean, we didn't know about Palpatine in the beginning, so I think it worked well here as well. But let's move on from characters. Let's get through some overarching questions. We do have a few, and we've already been talking for a long time. So let's start here at the top. Corey, you've alluded to this already, so we can kind of just chime in on what you've already said. But this story actually took place entirely in the unknown region, or as the inhabitants refer to it, the chaos. So what's your overall impression of the chaos, and did you find the name fitting? And on another note, I just want to point this out. The Chiss referred to the area of space controlled by the Republic or the Empire as lesser space. So it's crazy to think that literally everything that we've known since 1977 has taken place in lesser space. The future of Star Wars is bright.
Such an awesome dig.
It is.
And like, oh yeah, that's the kids' table.
Yes.
Of the universe. Just amazing. Like the casual nature at which they talk about, oh yeah, they're fighting with robots or something over there, and it's like the Clone Wars,
right?
Like
we have there's very much an attitude of like we have nothing to learn from the Republic, like yeah, and it's nuts, and it's like it's also a really great analysis of like the Chiss as a species too, right? Because they are incredibly arrogant and like. It is absolutely leading to their downfall in a lot of ways. It's like they feel like they're the most superior beings in the galaxy, and I absolutely love the chaos. And the fact that we're calling it the chaos instead of just the unknown regions, like totally gives it such a different connotation. Like it's
because it is known for them. They know it.
It is, yes, they know it, and there's also like I've always wondered, like we've seen this developing a lot in the last like 5 to 10 years in the Star Wars expanded universe of like the Emperor was very obsessed with like the unknown regions and stuff. It's like, all right, why don't you just go out there? Like, why can't you go out there? Like, it's just because it's the outer rim, right? It's just because unknown. Like, what's the big deal? And like even in like the New Jedi Order in like the space station that was out there and on that planet, it didn't seem dangerous, right? It didn't seem like the area was like somewhere that you couldn't just go and study. But like now that we're calling it the chaos, it's like, oh, okay, so there's black holes everywhere. You have to be able to use the Force to travel through it. Like it's totally different. Totally different.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong.
You know who's in the chaos? The Yuzhan Vong.
That's right.
Dude, like maybe. No, correct me if I'm wrong, though. In chapter 1, was there a reference to something that sounded like it was the Great Disaster?
Oh, not that I caught.
The High Republic.
Find it.
I'm gonna look for it. You keep talking.
Yeah, look for it. Well, we can move on because we've already talked, a good bit about the chaos. But cut in if you find that because I'll be interested to hear it.
Yeah.
But for Corey and Wes, then, what in your view is the goal, like the ultimate goal of this new Thrawn trilogy? Because it's all technically a prequel to the events, involving Thrawn in the Empire. And I find it interesting that every fan who's familiar with the end of the Rebels TV series is dying to know what happens next in the timeline. And then Zahn just pulls a 180 and tells us everything that happened before.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Charles. I think I don't think we totally understand the answer yet. And my gut reaction is like after having read so much of Timothy Zahn's stuff, I feel like the goal is to change our perception as Thrawn as a character, and it's already sort of happening, right? Like, I've already asked the question: is Thrawn a villain? I think the goal of the series, at least so far, is to say that no, we're supposed to learn that Thrawn is not a villain, and that his role in the big picture is something else that we don't quite understand, and I think it's incredibly fascinating that it's 2020, that this character has existed for almost 30 years now, and we're just now answering these types of questions. It's absolutely fascinating, and it is so important in the grand scheme of things. Imagine having read the Thrawn trilogy, original Thrawn trilogy in the 90s, knowing now what we know about the Grand Admiral Thrawn. It totally changes everything about his perception as a character. So to me, so far, it seemed like that's the goal, is to maybe not convince us that Thrawn is not a villain, but to at least make us think and sort of change our perception of how we view him as a character. He's not just a Moriarty, right, or a Sherlock Holmes, like a bad guy, right? He's something deeper, and he has complex emotions, right? And that's the fun conversation I think in Star Wars is like Adam Driver answered that on a Celebration stage one time. It's being Sith is not necessarily the same as being evil, right? There's perceptions of what good and evil is, and everybody is complex, and Anakin is complex as a character, right? He's not just choosing the quick and easy path. There's highly complex motives. I think that's what we're supposed to learn.
I'm glad you brought up Anakin too, because that's also where I go. The purpose of any prequel, especially in Star Wars, is to further inform the stories that come afterwards. I mean, there's a reason why you tell your current day story and then you go backwards, because I think that Anakin in the prequels now forever changes how you view the original trilogy, because Anakin, you've watched the Clone Wars, right. You've watched the prequels. So Darth Vader is a very different character, and his journey you can now watch with new eyes. It's the same reason we like reading anything in the EU. You read Master and Apprentice, which is now a prequel to Episode 1, and now Qui-Gon's different. So I think you nailed it, Corey, that now next time you watch Rebels or next time you read the first canon Thrawn books or something, you will now have this extra knowledge about Thrawn. And I think there's another aspect of it that might not even involve Thrawn at all, but they may just want to expand the galaxy more. I mean, this is a whole new region that can now open up stories for countless authors going forward of here's this brand new universe essentially that you can work within. Here's all these new cultures. Yeah. Great. The sandbox gets bigger.
I mean, think about the way that you could use this in a Star Wars RPG campaign. Suddenly the options are limitless, because if you can get your hands on a navigator, suddenly
go wherever you want.
Go wherever you want. Do whatever you want. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and also I want to say Spice did mention this in the chat. I was not thinking of the Great Disaster. They're right. It's on page 17 in the book. They talk about what created the chaos. That would not time up. It was just there was a big galactic event that when I was first reading it, I noted it because we didn't know what the Great Disaster exactly was at the time. Right. So incorrect. Just bad stuff happens in galaxies, man, and stuff gets destroyed all the time.
It's dangerous.
Yes,
got it.
Corey,
dangerous.
And Corey, what you were talking about, if you think Zahn is trying to give us a new definition of a hero, right? Because you can either our typical definition of hero and villain. Hero does all good, villain does all bad. But we're right now we're rooting for Thrawn in a sense. Totally. But there were multiple instances where he said that casualties are a part of this. Like there can be no witnesses left. So he is cold-blooded murder that was quoted in the book. So I mean, maybe he's trying to give us a new definition of the I don't know, new genre of heroes that is coming out of the Thrawn Ascendancy book line.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
I wonder because Timothy Zahn seems to think 10 steps ahead, right? Yeah. And I wonder if some of this might actually ultimately come into play with whatever might be happening with Thrawn and Ezra, because we don't know where those Purgles jumped off to. Maybe somewhere in the chaos.
Yeah,
you know?
only Filoni knows.
So
Zahn has said that repeatedly. He's like, that is Filoni's story to write. We know that for sure.
But he can set him up, and Filoni can knock him down. You know what I'm saying?
Right. He can throw up that alley-oop for show.
So getting back to actually a point that Wes just made, it plays beautifully into the next question. This book in general, not just with Thrawn, was really a far cry from the simple good versus evil that was first introduced to us in A New Hope. In fact, it was incredibly complicated. But my question is, was learning about the Chiss Ascendancy and its political hierarchy and its ruling families and all the different types of family members, was any of that overwhelming to you? Like, in your opinion, did it ever get too complicated and you were just like, whoa, back up. I just want to kind of know what's going on with these major strokes of the story. Or were you all about it? Like, are you sketching out myth family trees in your notebooks in your free time?
Dude, oh man, I loved it.
Injected in my veins, straight up. I want all of it. I loved every second of it. I thought it was written out in a way that didn't make it overwhelming, and it wasn't like a reference book in this technicality. It was done within the story. That being said, I would really like the next book. Again, we had the Dramatis Personae in this one, which I really liked. I think we should keep that. I think each book should build upon that with like, and here's now the myth lines, and here's the
oh, that'd be cool.
Oh, just keep it going. I love that stuff though. That's one of my favorite things about any fantasy novel is finding out what are the rules, what are the lines, what are the families, how does it work. I love that.
I mean, it makes the galaxy big, and complicated and complex. I think that's what's so attractive about the expanded universe is that it does truly expand. Like, and the more we get about species and civilizations and organizations, like now we have the Navigators Guild, now we have the Chiss Ascendancy and their family complex system. We're getting all this new terminology of adoptive. What's it? Married adoptive and
married adoptive. Man,
absolutely genius. Like and it's so entertaining. I absolutely love it.
And I
think that's how families should work in general, though. I think we should also adopt it as humans. You should audition
all
to be in my family.
We are all married adoptives in each other's families at this point, I think.
And if you read the book, you were flipping back to the first 4 pages to check and see the hierarchy and the levels of what a married adoptive is compared to a cousin, compared to bloodborne. It was very useful. When I first read that, I was like, what is this? Like, what is this definition page that I'm going to have to look at every 10 minutes after reading 3 or 4 pages at a time?
Oh, my God. I've never even seen this. I listened to the audio book.
Oh, Corey.
Oh, man. Look at that.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
This is fantastic. Okay, so if anybody else is out there, if you like me and you only read the audio book, there's apparently a whole Chiss Ascendancy breakdown in the beginning of the book. That's fantastic.
Man, if you only read it with your ears, go ahead and listen to it with your eyes.
Right. Get the hell out.
Oh, man. Well, on the note of the complicated nature of all of this, can we work through the hierarchy of the Chiss really quickly? Because I still don't think that I actually understand who is in charge.
I don't think they know who's in charge.
No, come on now.
No, okay, so
right,
it seems
I'm getting my hymnal.
It seems like the Chiss Ascendancy have ruling families, right? And the ruling families,
the 9 ruling families
have they have both heads of families, but the head of the families also don't seem like they have all the power. So it seems like they have sort of, I don't know, what's the title for it? Is there a title for it? Like
patriarch?
Yeah, the patriarch is the head of the family, and then the syndic is the member of the syndicure, which is the main government body.
Yes. So it's like they almost have an elected person that's not the patriarch, or the matriarch, I suppose.
But then, what is Aristocra? How does that?
The Aristocra is a mid-level member of one of the 9 ruling families. So like the Syndicate are the guys that make all the rules and they're like civilian. Then the military is a whole other like separate thing.
Right.
So it's like they're always working together and at odds.
Yes.
And the Aristocra is another level of politics that you can get within the family.
Is like
so you're saying there's checks and balances.
That's right. The Syndicate.
What a concept, huh? Vote.
The Syndicate is kind of like the Jedi Council, and the Aristocra is the entire Jedi Order. And
also,
the 9 ruling families are all the Force users in general.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I needed some help with that. I think I'm probably still going to need help moving forward. But, we had another one of our friends, Kyle Katarn, over on our Discord.
We're friends with Kyle Katarn?
Perfect.
The one and only.
Apparently, this I don't know if it's the real Kyle Katarn. He didn't have a blue check mark, but he basically was saying that Thrawn is frequently touted as either the savior or the destroyer of the future of the Chiss, and we mentioned that in the last episode. But his question was, while we don't know which one he ultimately might be, in what manner would he even become either one of those things? Like, is it possible for him to become a leader in the Ascendancy outside of his military position? One, because of, all the crap that the Ascendancy hates that he does, but 2, because of his like initially low social rank. Would it even allow for that? Like, how high could Thrawn rise amidst the Chiss Ascendancy?
I think it's a question of where the Ascendancy goes in their future. Like, are they willing to be burned down and built back up? Like, I think the patriarch of the Myth family definitely thinks it's time for some change.
Right.
I mean, when he's talking to Thalius on the mountain, he's like, okay, my family is definitely in need of something. And like Thrawn represents the future. It's kind of like the same conversation, honestly, that happens with governments and societies in our world. Like, when is the time that the new generation kind of steps up and changes things versus the old guard taking a step back? And there are clearly people like Thurfian and others of the old guard or the last remnants of the old guard that don't want anything to change, and they want to keep their power, and they don't want people like Thrawn that don't know the societal norms and don't know the politics to start coming in and making change. So I think that's also going to be a big part of this book series, is that Thrawn can only go as far as people who will put obstacles in his way. Like, so as long as they are able to stop him, they will try. But if he's able to get people like Bakif, like we were saying earlier, like Thalius, to kind of join him in this new generation of Chiss, in the new guard, in the new era, then ultimately the old people kind of fade away. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how far does he get before he eventually goes to the Empire.
Yeah. Yeah, and Amy was here. Amy DF, I guess, in our chat, like basically brought up the exact same point of like, we know he's in the Empire, and that's got to be a bit of a problem for his career advancement in the Chiss, right? Like, there's no way he's like president of the Chiss and over there in the Empire.
He hits a stop for sure. Yeah. He hits a level, and we'll find out what it is.
Well, so let's move on from kind of the culture of the Chiss, and let's talk about the Chiss homeworld itself. I found a lot of that stuff really interesting, specifically on page 249, when we learned that the Chiss capital on Scylla is actually an empty city. There's like very few people that actually live there because the Chiss had this mass exodus where they all moved underground or to other planets due to unfavorable conditions. And that caused the city to, largely freeze. It was like an ice city. Most of the senior members of the Chiss Ascendancy know this, but really the rest of the people don't. It seemed like a pretty big story point to me that wasn't really explored too much. What were y'all's thoughts on that?
My first initial thought was like maybe the Chiss are actually a lot weaker than we've sort of been like led on. Like maybe Thrawn's jump to the Empire was actually a bit out of desperation rather than
sure.
Right, like we're sort of led to believe even with this story that like the Chiss are this great powerful race and culture that like are going to live on for millennia, but like maybe that's not true here. Like maybe the planet they live on is not inhabitable. Like where the hell are they? Like they're on other planets, but like what are
but
they?
They're really ants.
Yeah,
they're ants.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was definitely like a keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. Like, all right, we got to keep up appearances. It doesn't matter if we're falling apart. It doesn't matter if we have no money. We got to pretend like we are. We got to keep going to the same parties. We're like the fact that they have cars and trains just on autopilot going through the city to make people that are looking at them think that there's it's pretty still weird. A public.
Yeah,
it's very weird, and it's also like, cool. Is that battle strategy so they don't get attacked?
Maybe.
But yeah,
how long can you keep that up?
Yeah, right.
How long can you keep
think we're gonna find
ruse?
out. That's book 2, baby. I'll tell you what. That's got. If I know my Star Wars second books and their trilogies, that planet's going down.
That's right.
And then how do they find out?
Book?
Yes.
Does one of the myth members just let that fly?
Right. And who finds
Wes,
out?
Are you saying?
Tell me why it's the Grisk.
Loose lips sink ships, Eric? Is that what we're talking about?
No, I'm saying, are you saying he's a myth buster?
Oh my god.
Yes.
I imagine Bakif is having what was his name? Was it Jamie with the mustache? Like the walrus mustache?
Yep.
From Mythbusters? Yes. I imagine Bakif has one of those.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's just him.
But yeah, so moving on from that city, I think they're gonna have to explore that more, because they wouldn't have really put that into the story and just left it, to sit. But I've got to ask this next question before we wrap up with all of these overarching questions. Will we ever learn what became of Thrawn's sister?
I don't think so.
In this trilogy, maybe not. But
I don't think so.
Zahn has been great for 30 years of being like, oh no, I know. And then just wait until that sweet book contract comes along, and then he's gonna be like, all right, I'll tell you now. Like,
that's smart on his part, right? Is to hold on to that little nugget that everybody's like, they'll finish this whole trilogy and be like, but we never got an answer to that, 4 paragraphs about his sister, or not even like 4 sentences about his sister.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I hope so, certainly, but I don't know either. But I think you're right. If we get another trilogy out of it, I'm not mad. But
yeah. All right. Twist my arm. More books. All right.
Moving on, just from this first book to looking ahead to the second book that we know is going to be coming.
Hold on, Andrew Bell, comment in the chat. Recanonize the Hand of Thrawn with the sister taking his place.
Just call it the Sword of Thrawn. And then also bring back Jaina Solo as well while we're at it. Sword of Thrawn.
Coming out of a portal being like, I was in the chaos!
Yeah, they can retcon everything just like we do with Star Trek. It'd be great.
In the chaos, they find the portal to Legends. It's like, wait a minute.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
World between worlds.
All right. Well,
what am I talking about? That exists.
Let's talk about the final chapter here in this book. When we hear a disembodied voice who refers to him or herself, I guess, as Jixtus, who speaks to Kilori, claiming that Yiv was never more than a pawn. And he also claims that he will bring about the fall of the Chiss Ascendancy. So just who is this Jixtus, and will he or she prove to be the ultimate villain in the chaos, like Palpatine is for Lesser Space, or is he or she just the antagonist for part 2 of this trilogy?
All right, hear me out.
Jixtus is actually Thrawn's granddaughter.
Or it's just Thrawn with a mustache.
That's true. No, I think Jixtus is. I like the idea of it being the new big bad. I mean, this is the Palpatine of this area. I do think though
mechanical arms.
Your rapscallions. I do think though I think it could be a Sith. I think this could be like an ancient Sith.
Oh shit! I didn't even think
because we talk about the ancient Sith wars. Why would the Sith only be in this universe? So I think there's definitely, or someone using the chaos in a dark way. Like I love the idea of Thrawn's first experience with the dark side of the Force being Jixtus. So then when he meets Vader,
I mean,
I've seen this before.
It's been done about a thousand times. Like, how many times have the Sith been destroyed, gone off to some planet, lived for ages, then they mysteriously show up? That even happened in Legends.
Literally every time.
Where Legends was going, right? Like Luke kind of sort of discovered the Sith species in Empire, right? Like,
guys, sorry, Spice Den killing it with all these theories today. Jixtis is a former kidnapped Skywalker, maybe even Thrawn's sister.
Spice Den must be taking Spice.
Man.
I say, that'd be cool.
Opening my mind.
I mean, because that's the thing about Star Wars, right? We can either go one of two ways. One, everything can be new, but also the amount of like connections we have also kind of makes Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's Snoke.
The amount of familial. So I think there's possibilities. I don't know. I'm excited to find out whatever it is. I mean, between this and like this book ending with this and like the first Alphabet Squadron book ending the way it did. No spoilers if you haven't read that yet. But like the villain reveals in canon are getting pretty dope.
Yeah.
I really like. I really like them.
I mean, we have to eventually have a new big bad, right? Like in general.
Yeah.
Like that is the nature of Star Wars, is that there's always one villain, like there's always a bigger fish, right? Like like maybe
we'll get a High Republic one.
Yes, we're gonna get a High Republic one. Maybe Palpatine is not it. Like, I mean, kind of, putting the nail in the coffin on Palpatine with Episode 9 surely does close a lot of doors for Star Wars storytelling in a lot of ways. So maybe we need something bigger, something badder. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need someone that's been waiting longer than, because I get it. All the villains are waiting. That's the big Star Wars thing too. Like, I waited for 100 years. I waited for 3,000.
I waited for 10,000 years.
Stop waiting and just do something. And I think that's what Jixtis is about to do. So very excited to see.
There's literally a line somewhere with Sith taking a number.
It's gonna Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
All right, number 37. Palpatine, like, that's me.
Long have I waited?
Long have I waited.
I gotta go to the Secretary of State on Friday, by the way. This reminds me of that. I'm not excited about it. Anyway.
That sounds not fun.
Corey, you listened to the audiobook. Did you not think that he said Jesus right when he revealed his name? I was like, Jesus.
The world between worlds, Wes. Anything is possible.
Well, Zahn
long have I been a carpenter.
Oh my goodness. Do you know how excited Jared would be?
Oh man.
All right, y'all. Let's move on from this before we get in any more trouble. Let's talk about Easter eggs.
Yes.
To be totally upfront, y'all, I don't have as many this time as I usually do. I apologize. Partly that's because I'm not as familiar with ins and outs of all of Zahn's Legends material beyond like the original Thrawn trilogy. Partly I think because there's a ton of brand new material in this book, and partly because I didn't have as much time to research. I'm just
and Outbound Flight is a very big book. I've been looking at it on my bookshelf for a good long time. It's a thick boy.
Yeah. I mean, everybody only thinks about the original trilogy, but like Thrawn, God damn it, I always do that.
It's Zahn, not a bit, guys. See?
Zahn has so many books. He really does.
He does. But we're going to give it a go anyway. So here's everything that I caught. On page 18, Bakif says, "Are you certain this is the way?" And the only appropriate response to that question is, "This is the way." But the person he's speaking to says, "Yes, General." And I don't like that. So we need to rewrite
Gross. That is not the way.
What a great Easter egg.
Thank you, Wes. It's all downhill from here. On page 97, at an art gallery, we have Thrawn say, "The history of the Ascendancy is in these rooms. Some of these pieces date back to the Chiss participation in the wars between the Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire." So that's talking about a bunch of like old Republic stuff.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's right. Okay, that makes it possible that you can play as a Chiss like in the Old Republic game. I had never thought about that until just now. It's a great point.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Page 227, Thrawn says, "We all have regrets, however, just as we have hopes that will never get fulfilled. The key to a satisfying life is to accept those things that cannot be changed and make a positive difference with those that can." That's not really an Easter egg. It's just like Thrawn chucking out life lessons, and I'm going to try to apply that.
It sounds like it should be like a
quote to live by.
It sounds like a Nelson Mandela quote or some shit. Like,
it's literally the quote at the top of the review, because I'm like, damn.
The key to having a satisfying life is to accept those things that cannot be changed. Abraham Lincoln. Like,
like just attribute quotes to Thrawn from now on, like famous historical quotes.
I think perhaps I am. Like,
Oh Oh, man. All right. On page 228, Thrawn and Thalius play cards. And I just wanted to point out, can you imagine how not fun it would be to play cards against Thrawn?
Oh, my God.
Like,
unless it's
like,
unless
I deduced that you would likely ask if I had any sevens, and so I made sure to discard them accordingly. As such, you may go fish.
That's
That'd be terrible. It would be terrible. Page 291, Cherry says to Thrawn, they run their warships with machines? Some of them, yes, Thrawn said. Indeed, if the reports are true, one side of the massive war taking place in lesser space is largely being waged by such droids. Cherry thought about that. Seems kind of stupid, she said. Then Thrawn says, the desire to minimize warrior deaths is futile if the war is then lost. So 2 great points there. One, that's hilarious that Cherry basically just said Dooku and all the separatists are just stupid. And 2, we see that using those machines did not at all minimize warrior death.
That's right.
In the prequels and everything, that it led to in the original trilogy. In fact, it probably multiplied. That's where we are right now.
multiplied. Thrawn.
the death.
We weren't going to say anything.
Yeah, but I thought that was just great. Page 294, we see Duja. So that's Padme's handmaiden, who is from she's the one who dies on Mokivj, essentially, while she's investigating the separatist droid factory.
Remember when Padme
that doesn't change her last part of her name to A, which is why she died.
And Padme had to carry her dead body and dispose of it.
Exactly.
It's a rough day, man. Remember when I gotta say, I loved how Thrawn alliances all just happened during a chapter.
That's right. Oh,
yes.
How have we not talked about this yet? That entire scene being in this book was amazing. Like the same text was there, the same dialogue. That was fantastic. Getting it from another perspective. Genius move.
It perfectly solidified where we were in the timeline, which was nice. Because there were a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, and I'm like, Anakin's there, and Mithrana Ding Dong, and like...
Oh, man.
Oh, man. All right, page 318, Arlani says to Thrawn, Skywalker, bizarre coincidence. And then he responds, I understand it's not that uncommon a name in parts of lesser space. So they are doubling down. I made this point that George Lucas said this a bunch of times. Skywalker equals Johnson. You heard it here first. That is official. Vader is stupid for not noticing.
At this point, Thrawn has met one human, and he's like, no, they're all called that. Yeah.
They all look the same to me.
I met 2 white brunettes, so I just assume that they all look like that.
That's right.
All right. Well, I was doing my perusing on Wikipedia as I do for all of these Easter eggs, and I saw an interesting little tidbit on there. My Hungarian is a little bit rusty, but according to Wikipedia, Saplar, the name of the Chiss city, the capital city on Scylla, is the Hungarian word for bartender.
What?
Right. Amazing.
What? That explains why they're all dead. They are alcoholics.
that
Alcoholism
has to be a coincidence.
Is rampant amongst the Chiss Ascendancy.
Was Zahn just like backpacking around like Hungary and was just like, that word, I am using that word.
That's right.
Saplar.
That's it.
I'll have another one.
They keep everybody underground and pump oxygen or whatever they breathe into those into those ant colonies, and they don't turn the lights on. It's like a casino down there. And they
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
All right. At the beginning of the novel, we learn that Thrawn is recovering from injuries sustained in a battle against the Vigari pirates. And the Vigari were an alien species who made several appearances in Legends. That was in Outbound Flight. It was also in Survivor's Quest and the Dark Nest trilogy. So kind of canonizing some of those things maybe that happened.
Interesting.
Yep.
And then final one that I've got for you, one of the myth syndics who they named as Thras was also mentioned as having been killed in that same Vigari skirmish. And Thras is actually a Legends character who was also killed in Legends, but more importantly was actually Thrawn's brother.
What?
So in canon, he's no longer Thrawn's brother that we know of, but we see that character come back.
Wow,
so I thought that was pretty
that
cool.
is an Easter egg if I've ever heard one. Charles, damn.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Wikipedia. Anytime honest to God, how I do this, anytime a name pops up in a canon book now, I'm like, I wonder. And I just look it up, and a lot of times.
It's a good call. Another shout out to Spice Den. Always killing it. Had another couple Easter eggs. Thras being dead was one. The ship looking like outbound flight, but also the ring that Thrawn gets gifted in this book. That is the design of the Chimera of his future ship.
That's
the ring.
Good.
Yeah, it is. Look, I got the cover right there. You can see the two snakes with the mouth.
Also, that same Chimera ship that can be unlocked as a hologram in EA Motive's Star Wars Squadrons, now available for all consoles and PC.
Oh my God! All right,
come play with us.
So let's wrap this up, guys. Let's re-rate this book on a 1 to 10. Give me any final thoughts that you have. I guess we're gonna do Corey last again because I want to know if his 10 has changed. So we're gonna let him back clean up. Eric, you go first. 1 to 10, and any final thoughts.
So I did 9.4, I think, before. I'm gonna go 9.7. I mean, this book it's just so good, and I've never felt quite so happy and pleased as someone who admittedly has not been a fan of some of the more recent Thrawn entries to finish this book and be like, yes, this totally is great. I love this character. I love this direction. I love that some of my favorite books that we're getting in Star Wars are some of the most recent entries. Like, Star Wars has so much freaking publishing momentum right now, and I'm obsessed with it. Like, Thrawn is at the best it's been. The High Republic hype could not be bigger. We went from like a 6 point something on Queen's Shadow to a 9.0 on Queen's Peril. Like, the graph is shooting up so high, and this book I think is kind of like the best example of this so far. And if you're not excited about Star Wars publishing right now after reading these last few entries, like, I don't know, man, this is it is more than I ever thought it could be, and I can't wait to get book 2 next year. And the fact that we're getting this and the final book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy and 6 High Republic books in the same calendar year makes up for this dumpster fire of 2020.
That's right.
Loved it.
Agreed.
9.7. Print it.
Agreed. Wes, any thoughts?
Right, Coda?
So I give my initial rating of it was good for what I've read to I finished it, and 9.2. I wouldn't give it
we've ever had.
Yeah, I thought again, echo everybody's thoughts. Really great book. I love Zahn's writing. I also liked that he dumbed it down for a lot of us to as I wouldn't say dumb it down, but Shiri. All right, so I feel that he wrote this character for stupid people like myself to help decipher some of Thrawn's plans, because she was like, so that's why you did this, to break across the thing? And I'm like, oh, that's why he did it.
Oh, man.
So I was like really hanging on to some of her dialogues. I was like, oh, that's why. I was
genius.
Just reading words.
Yes.
Love that.
I couldn't get over the fact that Shiri sounded like an anime character in the audiobook. That's the only small, tiny amount of criticism I have of Mark Thompson's
That's Mark Thompson.
I can't say anything negative about Mark Thompson. He did like 10 really aliens in this book. It was unbelievable.
Like a really great anime character.
Yes,
but like out of voices, for goodness sake.
Yes, his childish little girl voice, it makes me cringe a little bit, and it took me a long time to get used to it. Like, long time.
And after last episode, I couldn't think of anything but Arlani being a Nazi war officer. She was
but like in a cool way.
German accent.
She does have a thick German accent. Oh, man.
All right. Well, I think that I lowballed this book. I think I gave it an 8.9 when we started, and you guys have convinced me. I'm coming up to a 9.5. I think this book was
nice jump.
Yeah. I know, it's a big jump. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. That's all I can say. 9.5. This is absolutely has to be a 9 or above. Maybe not a perfect 10, but let's see what Corey thinks about that.
Yeah. So I mean, the book was. I'm totally with you guys. The book teaches you that. How can I say this? I really hate the question, what's your favorite character in Star Wars? People ask me that a lot. People find out you're like a huge Star Wars fan. Like, we run UTN, we have a Star Wars podcast. Like, they people try to connect. Yes, right. People try to connect with you, and they ask you, a question, which is oftentimes kind of an elementary question, like, what's your favorite Star Wars thing? What's your favorite character? Just making conversation, right? And I hate the question, what's your favorite character? Because the expanded universe makes it impossible to answer that damn question. Because as we have seen with Thrawn now being the perfect example of that, you can have different depictions of the character and different books that you love and hate, and just wait for the next entry because it might change your mind about it. And that is where this book was for me, because I'm with you, Eric. I did not like Thrawn Alliances that much, did not like Thrawn Treason that much. And this book is like it took the original canon Thrawn book, which was hella good, unbelievably good. 9.5 for me. I loved it. It's my top 5. This is better than that book even. And Wes, you're talking about Shiri dumbing it, kind of dumbs down the character of Thrawn a little bit. I don't feel like you have to know anything about the Chiss to read this book. You don't have to have been around since the 90s to read this book, which is what I was worried about. I was worried that you would have to know all the stuff that happened in the original Thrawn trilogy to get it, and you don't have to do that at all. So, I'll go back to what I said originally when I went last time, is I said, at Utini, we judge books based on writing, originality, entertainment, characters, and what's the fourth one or fifth one?
The cover.
Plot, yes.
Yeah, you went backwards.
Yes, and I think that this book meets damn near perfection in every single one of those categories. If you individually base your score off of those 5 individual categories, I find it hard to argue that this is not a perfect 10 in all 5 of those categories. So the average of 10 is 10, right? So
there it is.
I'm still giving this book a 10 out of 10. I think it's one of the best canon books that has ever been written. It is definitely in my top 5. I might go as far to say it's in my top 3 books. I absolutely loved it. I felt this way. I closed it, and I felt the way that I did after Master and Apprentice, which is my favorite book. So absolutely loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, I put this up in there was a thing going around Twitter a couple days ago where everyone was sharing their top 4 favorite canon novels, and it was one of those fun trends. And I put this in there. Yeah. I couldn't not, based on how we're talking about it. Yeah. So
I can't wait for the next entry, and that has to say something. Yep. I haven't felt so jacked about a second book in a series in a really, really long time. We just don't have that many series in canon, and I love the Alphabet Squadron series, but I don't love it like Eric does, right? So I'm not just dying for that next entry the way you are. And this book left me. If you
Will Lark has a beard, Corey. How would he get that beard?
How'd he get that beard?
That's what I want to know.
Man.
All right, well, that does it. That is the end of the Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising Roundtable. I'm already stoked for the next one, but for now, I'm going to kick it back to Eric.
All right, man. Well, if you like this roundtable, then coming up later this year, again, I'm not 100% sure how we'll do from a certain point of view because of its format, but we will have an episode featured on that. But guys, our next official full roundtables, it's going to be Light of the Jedi. High Republic.
Oh my gosh!
Wow,
we're coming up. We got a couple months till that happens. But
so the only thing we have coming out in the next couple months is the from a certain point of view, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But in the meantime, a couple of things we want to tell you guys about that are going on here at Utini. Wes, tell us what's going on with Utini game nights. Because Corey was on the show last week doing some fun stuff.
Corey came on last Friday night and did a Star Wars Sims edition. I had never played The Sims before, so I watched Corey put together a virtual world of Corran Horn, who he hates dearly. And everything that he put together were things that he thought some douchebag person named Corran Horn and from iJedi would put together.
It was a lot of fun.
It was, and he tried to get Corran Horn beat up for no apparent reason, and then he tried to kill him at the end. It was pretty entertaining. So,
correction, Wes, I did kill him both by drowning and by fire. All right.
Oh my god,
man, I missed that part.
Yeah, so he is very dead. It was the highlight of the episode.
So that stream is still on this very channel if you want some highlights from that.
And this coming Friday, we will have Andrew. He'll sign on for Squadrons, and he'll try to get some of our Utini team members to join up with his squadron, get 4, hopefully, and they'll join him on the chat, and we'll hear some people get blown up. I don't know if I will not be on that squadron. Maybe some other of our Utini family will get on. But this Friday, if you are Patreon. That's tomorrow. And if you got the regular broadcast, you'll see it today. So tune in on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Is that correct?
Excellent. Nailed it.
I was like, damn it, what time is he going on?
Yeah, Twitter as well. We'll be taking that at UTN_US and at Living Force Pod. We'll be sure to shout that out. And if you are playing Squadrons, go into our Discord channel that is all about SW-Squadrons. Drop your EA name, get some squad mates. We'll all hang out and play. Additionally, Conjure Book Club is still going every Saturday. They've been talking about Dark Disciple by Christy Golden, which we love. It's a really fantastic book, so make sure to check that out on the Patreon. A couple of Patreon episodes we want to let you guys know about as my video lags out beautifully. If you guys aren't on our Patreon, you found out that this week we did light skipping, and we finally did it, everyone. iJedi was picked.
This has been a week of iJedi, man.
If you want to jump on Patreon, this is the time to do it. Sign up for a single month. Listen to the iJedi episode, then jump off. That's fine. We get it.
Wait, hold on a second. If somebody jumps on Patreon for a single month, that's going to put us over the Patreon goal, which means I'm going to have to read the damn book.
The whole thing in one
month, everyone.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely do it. Additionally, hilariously, after this very episode, Charlie and I are about to record our latest episode of The Ghost Crew, where we're talking about Star Wars Rebels. Tonight, we're going to talk about the episode where Ketsu came in season 2. And announcement, Corey, do you want to tell everyone about the event that is coming up on the 23rd?
Yes, on the 23rd. That's the Night at the Opera, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I was teeing you up for it.
Yes, I was hoping that was the right event.
Yes.
I was thinking today. I couldn't remember what date we had picked, but yes, it is the 23rd, which is not next week. Wait, 23rd.
That is the 12th.
The week because Thursday, the 22nd, is my birthday.
Okay.
Just throwing that out.
I have a wedding that weekend. We might have to change the date. Oh, shit.
No.
Anyway, whenever we do Night at the Opera...
Tell your friends that there's a pandemic going on.
Jeez,
don't get married now.
That's correct. That's correct. I think I chose the wrong date. Timothy's going to kill me. Sorry, Tim. All right, we'll talk about it later. But
we'll talk about it next week.
Coming up this month, Night at the Opera. We're going to do it. We do it like every quarter. I think we missed one there in the summertime when we were trying to get everything straightened out, but Tim has jumped in and gotten us back on track. So Night at the Opera, we get together for a watch party. Last time we watched the last couple episodes of the Clone Wars.
Siege of Mandalore.
That's right,
Mm-hmm.
Siege of Mandalore. It's a lot of fun. It's worth, I think, jumping on Patreon just for that reason. This month we're gonna do the last couple episodes of The Mandalorian, and kind of maybe like a little recap of The Mandalorian a little bit before the new season kicks off. So it'll be fun.
Yep. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And final update, as I do most weeks, the Utini Fantasy Football League is going strong. And by strong, I mean not my team. So I want to give a shout out to James, who is at the head of our leaderboard and is facing me this week, and who had the Baltimore Ravens defense, who scored 32 points by themselves and beat the ever-loving crap out of my team. James, congrats. All right. Now, other than that, everyone, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Living Force.